We are making good progress now in Elementary Greek 1. We have covered the basics of the Greek alphabet. We have thought about principles of punctuation, syllabification. We have thought about the four cases of Greek nouns: nominative, genitive, dative, accusative. Thought a bit about adjectives, and now on to third declension. Want to just review with you for a moment as we think about the third declension, this whole principle of declensions or groupings of words. Sometimes this can be intimidating, and especially in a grammar class like this, and I want to assuage that feeling a bit as you listen to these slides in Chapter 10, the third declension. Think of declensions as groups, and you're familiar with groups. If you've ever played sports, take for instance basketball. If you've played basketball, you know that there are guards, forwards, and a center on a basketball team with 5 players. And if you're in practice and there are 15 or 18 people on your team, the guards may go together as a group to do some drills in practice. The forwards may do some specific drills. The centers may do some specific drills. The team is declined. It is grouped according to various skills and positions on the team. If you have been in an orchestra, you know that the strings sometimes play together on their own. The horns sometimes play together on their own. Percussion sometimes on their own. And then they get together and play. But on their own, they have some characteristics unique to that instrument or to that sound, that set of instruments. Well, the same with languages. There are certain words that behave in certain patterns, and we group them together, and thus we have declensions. And that's where we're at with first, second, and third declensions. So first declension nouns, their stem ends in alpha or eta, and you can see that here in the middle column. Masculine neuter, their stem ends in omicron. And you recall this chart. On the left side of the slash is the ending. On the right side, you have the final stem vowel with the ending. So that final stem vowel, omicron for masculine neuter, alpha or eta for feminine, the first and second declensions, they all have stems that end in vowels. Well, that leads us to then the third declension, because the third declension finally then all stems that would end in consonants, and this is what we have. But we have specific endings that we put on these consonantal stem endings, and the endings look like this here in the masculine, feminine, and then the neuter. Sigma, and then omicron, sigma, iota, alpha or nu, epsilon, sigma, omicron, nu, dative plural, sigma, iota, nu, and accusative plural, alpha, sigma. That's the masculine, feminine column, and you can see the neuter column. What I want you to notice is that on the left side of the slash for the masculine second declension, that's the second column over, masculine with a 2 below it, and then go to the masculine feminine third declension as a 3 beneath it. Notice how similar the endings are, not including the final stem vowel, but just the ending itself. What's on the left side of the slash on the masculine, and then the masculine feminine column with the 3 beneath it. You have sigma, and then there's something different, upsilon for masculine, second declension, masculine feminine, third declension, omicron, sigma. And then iota, that's the same. And then if you look at genitive plural, that's the same. Dative plural, a little bit of a difference with sigma, iota, epsilon, or rather iota sigma versus sigma iota. But you can see that the third declension endings are not all that different. There are some that are exactly the same. Dative singular. Iota is the ending across the board. We know that in the feminine, the long vowel, the iota subscripts, and as well the masculine and neuter in the first and second declension, that iota subscripts under a long vowel, but there is no long vowel for the iota to subscript beneath in third declension. Why? What do third declension nouns end in? Not a vowel, but a consonant, so that iota stands up tall. I just want your eyes to follow the pattern and notice left to right that from second declension to third declension, there are many similarities. There are a few things that can help us to recognize differences, though. And when I say here from 212 to 313, I am just helping you to think about what you already know and then to learn some new ideas. And Mounce gives us 4 principles. I've organized them just a bit differently, but the principles are pretty close to the same. I've basically taken his 3 and 4 and separated them and isolated number 4 here, and we can talk about that. Notice number 1. To determine the stem of a third declension noun, remove the ending from the genitive singular. And the genitive singular ending is omicron sigma. So look at the genitive singular, remove omicron sigma, and you have the actual stem of that noun. And it will end in a consonant. And here, kappa, sark. Sarkos, remove omicron sigma, sark. That's it. And so we have to memorize what the genitive singular is. And the lexicon provides that for us. In third declension nouns, nouns that end in a consonant, the lexicon provides both the nominative singular and the genitive singular, followed then by the nominative definite article. But that genitive singular helps us then to identify exactly what the stem is. So keep in mind that genitive singular, omicron sigma ending, and remove it. You have the stem. Number 2, because the nominative singular and the dative plural third declension endings both begin with sigma, whatever happens to the final consonant in one case happens also in the other. Look at our paradigm here for sarks again. Sark is the stem, add sigma for the nominative singular, and we'll learn a rule in a bit that when a kappa and sigma come together, they form a xi. In the dative plural, sigma iota nu is the ending, so it becomes sarkson. Whatever happens in nominative singular happens also in dative plural because the ending of both begins with sigma. Number 3, the nu, the letter nu, drops out when followed by a sigma, and also the tau drops out when followed by a sigma. Again, especially important in the nominative singular and the dative plural, because they both have a sigma that comes up against that stem consonant, and there's no vowel between, and that sigma is strong. Think of sigma as strong, strong enough to knock out a nu, to knock out a tau. Sigma, as Mounce notes, is sort of the issue with third declension. It's not a problem issue. Just recognize that in Greek it is a strong consonant and it knocks out other consonants. Finally, tau drops out if it's at the end of a word. Greek speakers evidently just didn't enjoy the sound of a T at the end of a word, so it dropped out, kind of to soften the end of a word. Well, enough of just the listing of the rules. Notice them here. I have listed the Third declension endings again on the left side of the paradigm, and then we have the word pos as it would be looked up in the lexicon. And let's begin by asking this question: what is the stem of pos? It's not pos. What is it? How do we find it again? That's right, we go to the genitive singular and remove the omicron sigma ending, and for the masculine and neuter it's pont. See that? We remove it, and there it is. Well, let's think about the pattern here then. Pos to pontos to ponti and ponta. And in third declension, whatever happens in the accusative singular masculine also happens in the neuter plural nominative. See that? Ponta, ponta. And what happens in the nominative plural in neuter also happens in the accusative plural. Just as we know our noun rules, the nominative accusative singular, nominative accusative plural, see the similarity there? Also with the genitive and dative singular and genitive and dative plural, whatever happens in masculine happens also in neuter. So you have pontos and pontos. You see the dative singular, ponti and ponti. Genitive plural, pontone and pontone. Dative plural, possin and possin. Is this starting to come together a little bit? The pos ending in the nominative singular is so because what is the ending of the nominative singular? Well, it's sigma, but if you have pont sigma, that sigma is strong. It knocks out the tau and it knocks out the nu. Pos becomes the ending. Pont is the stem of this word pos, but go to the nominative singular neuter. Why is it pon and not pont? There is no ending there. Why isn't it just pont? Because tau does not end a word, so it's pon. And this is then the explanation for much of the paradigm. We'll see a couple of more paradigms here in just a moment, but let's think about what Mounce helpfully notes here and traces out for us the importance of what's called the square of stops. This is important for stems ending in a consonant, which is the third declension. And there are, according to speech pathologists especially, various ways of organizing sounds that we make, according to labials, velars, or dentals. Labials, those sounds that require the lips, p, p, b, beta, and phi, f. The velar, those that require a bit more of the throat, k, kappa, g, gamma, key, kappa, gamma, and key. In the dentals, tau, delta, and theta. Those require the front part of the mouth. Well, when those consonants interact with a sigma, remember that sigma is strong. It knocks out a tau, it knocks out a nu, and when it comes into contact with these consonants, it affects them as well. It doesn't knock them out, but it changes them. When a sigma comes up against a labial, a p, beta, or phi, the result is psi. When a velar comes into contact with a sigma, kappa, gamma, or chi, the result is xi. and with a dental, tau, delta, or theta. This we recognized already with the tau. It knocks it right out, and that's the case here with all the dentals. It's so strong that it knocks out the dentals. Are you catching this? Here's some more examples here with just sarcs. The kappa and sigma become sarcs, and you can see down the rest of the paradigm. We recognized already that what happens in the nominative singular also happens in the dative plural. That sigma comes up against the kappa. Isn't strong enough to knock it out, but it changes it to sarcs. It sort of wants to dominate any consonant it gets around. If it can't knock it out, it wants to change it so it's pronounced a certain way. And then I put the examples from previous chapters of the second and first declension nouns here just for your comparison. And again, you can see similarities across the board. So when we learn third declension, we're not learning new meaning, nor are we learning all that many nuances of form, just in a few places. Genitive singular, nominative plural, a little bit in dative plural. But otherwise, there are a number of similarities. Some third declension endings that are common. We've looked at cap already, but mot and nu. We've looked at sarcs already, but look at onoma. The root is what? Or rather the stem. The stem of the word onoma. How do we find that stem? We have to find the genitive singular, remove the ending, and then we have the stem, onomot. So that's what we work with, onomot. Why is the nominative singular not onomot? Because tau can't end a word. So onoma, onomatos, onomati, onoma. And you can see the paradigm the rest of the way down. Tis, if we look at the genitive singular, remove omicron sigma, what do we have? Tin, and that's the stem. But if we put tin up against a sigma ending, that sigma is so strong it knocks it out, tis. And this word tis, who, which, what, is interrogative, as we can see here. This is the interrogative or the indefinite pronoun. If it has the accent, it's a question, who, which, what. If not, then it's just an indefinite pronoun. And you can see the pattern here, very consistent, and that's one of the beauties of third declension nouns. And once you get them down, they just stick right with you. Once you learn third declension, it's there. It just makes sense. Remember the strong sigma, the basic noun rules, the square of stops, and you have it. We also are learning here in chapter 10 adjectives, and the adjective as a numeral 1. Various forms here. Haste, mia, and hen, if you follow the nominative singular all the way across, that means one. Haste, mia, and hen, but it must, as an adjective, have agreement with the noun it modifies. Thus, required in the singular, obviously not the plural, but in the singular, it must have some nuances for the various cases. And you can see even here those third declension patterns. Haste, if you look down the masculine column, chenas, cheni, chena. Feminine, mia, mias, mia with the iota subscripting. Why does it subscript there, but not in the masculine or the neuter? That's right, because of that long vowel, it can subscript under there, and it does if it's possible. But if not, it stays upright. And then you can see the similarity with neuter. Ken, henas, heni, hen. Some memorization to do for vocab as well this week. I've just taken 3 words from the vocab list, and I've got a few bridges to suggest. Again, the more creative you are, the more consistent you are, the more successful you will be. It's necessary to think creatively of the vocab. Once you have a word picture, some sound association, then review those consistently. Hagios, hagia, hagion. Hog is not holy. Hagios. Soma, think of sumo wrestler, a body. Teknon, teknu. By the way, teknon, tekna, what declension would that be? That's right, second declension. It's a neuter word. It's second declension. Why? Because its stem ends in omicron. We'll continue to work on these as we've thought about already. Greek is mastered only as we work on it twice a day, morning and evening, 15 to 30 minutes in the morning. I suggest even before breakfast if possible, if not as soon in the day as possible. And then in the evening, half hour at least. If you can work on some vocab, some grammar, in each of those, a bit of translation in the workbook, just a little bit of each of those components. Even in the morning, just 5 minutes of each. In the evening, 10-15 minutes of each, reviewing, listening to this slideshow multiple times during the week. You will be successful. And if things have come easy so far, wonderful. You are on track. And I need to encourage you, though, that as we progress, there's going to be a good bit more to learn, not only this term, but also in Elementary Greek 2 as we quickly begin to approach that stage. And you're going to need to stay with the pattern of review and translation in order to have Greek be more and more natural to you in quick reading and translation. And that's our goal, so that we can know God's Word and be useful in His kingdom. Lord bless you in your work.